I just finished watching Apple's WWDC 2024 keynote, where they announced their first foray into AI with what they're calling Apple Intelligence. Oh, no, wait, no, that's just my amnesia, because Apple has re-promised the arrival of a bunch of stuff from a couple years ago that never came, except now you can only get them if you have the newest and most expensive iPhone. Just kidding. Kinda. Okay, before I get spicy, let's break this thing down Snazzy style into 3 buckets. The boring stuff that's secretly the best stuff, the kids stuff, and the AI stuff. Buckle up stuff. Bucket 1. Apple opened the keynote by getting as darn near to an apology as Apple can muster, an admission that they've spent much of the last year rebuilding more aspects of the underlying iOS experience than they have in years. Promises that app launches are up to 30% faster, new photos will hit your library 70% faster, that even stuff like AirDrop will be 80% quicker, iPad file transfers 5 times faster, and even CPU scheduling has been entirely reworked for every device going all the way back to the iPhone 11, which means iOS 27 runs on every single device that iOS 26 does. And if we really get 30% faster app launches on a 7-year-old iPhone, that's great, and that'll stand to be a huge quality of life improvement and maybe dispel the, in my opinion, incorrect but widely held notion that Apple nerfs old devices on purpose with bad updates so that you'll upgrade your hardware. And here's the part where I start to get insufferable. I have spent 2 solid years yelling into the void that Apple's platforms have quietly turned into buggy, sluggish disasters. And the replies that I always got were from people saying, "Oh, weird, it works fine for me." Skill issue. So when Craig walked out on stage and spent 10 minutes straight basically conceding that everything needed to be faster, smoother, and less broken, that, my friends, validated my insanity, and I'm taking a victory lap. I mean, I'm already doing it right now. Yeah! The same refinement is said to extend to design. As was obvious to everybody with a brain, they didn't just blow up liquid glass, they polished it. There's now a slider that runs from ultra clear to fully tinted, so that you can dial in the glassiness effect to wherever your eyeballs are happy. But the panels also better diffuse what's behind them for improved readability across the board. They almost look kind of 3D, while more cleverly obscuring content behind so as to provide better text contrast. And it seems that, at least on the Mac, the platform on which liquid glass was the most disastrous, has seen a huge number of improvements, like the sidebars running to the edge, the corner radiuses being fixed. Radii? Yeah. Icons getting their color back, and more. And then there's the one thing that I want you to remember, because it's wearing camouflage. They fully rebuilt the entire search index that powers Spotlight, Photos, and Mail. I know. Try to contain yourself. This is exciting. Maybe setting search will actually work on iOS now. A man can only dream. But park that sentence in your mind for a minute, because it might be the single most important thing that Apple announced this morning. And I'm going to come back to you later and prove it. Quick fire on a few crowd pleasers. iCloud shared photo libraries now allow your friends on Android and Windows to join, which is great, and contribute at full resolution. Hopefully, it's more elegant than FaceTime on Android. iMessage now shows separate send states for large pictures and stuff that gets jammed up, and AirPods get custom EQing. Maybe I will finally be able to make my AirPods 3 sound like my beloved AirPods Pro 3. What? My AirPods Pro 3 sound like my AirPods Pro 2. Yeah. So that's bucket 1. Bucket 1 is awesome. And I hope that iOS 27 finally takes the crown from iOS 12 as the most stable iOS ever. Bucket 2. Trust and safety. The second Craig said, "We're especially focused on kids and teens." I leaned all the way in because I'm a dad now. And while my kid is still too small for screen time, I am painfully aware of how garbage parental controls on iOS have been for the longest time. And that bolting a clunky MDM profile onto your toddler's iPad to get some semblance of content control has been a real struggle for mommies and daddies. And what they showed, I thought, was actually useful, which I did not have on my bingo card. They worked with the American Academy of Pediatrics and a stack of child development researchers to ship recommended defaults, time allowances split across entertainment, games, and social media, schedules that understand that a Tuesday is not the same as a Saturday, and a redesigned screen time that I am lighting candles and praying fixes the years-long bug that never correctly counts the time. It's like a real thing. It's not a conspiracy. I swear it's broken. It has been for a long time. Yeah, that will ultimately work, but also leave parents the final say over everything. You start your kid with a focused handful of apps, and over time they can earn and be approved to use more. In addition to Ask to Buy for apps and Ask to Download, which has been around for a few years now, there is now a Ask to Browse for the web, the ability to whitelist individual websites one by one. You can also whitelist people to talk to your kid and vice versa. And the content filter that used to catch nudity now also steps in front of gore and violence too, all while being done on device. Oh, and child accounts, they can now finally be converted from existing accounts if they're not linked as child accounts, which is amazing because you have not experienced frustration in life until you have personally wrestled with the demon that is Apple ID account management. Thank you. Now, where it falls down is just frankly the hardest spot of all. Age gating an app does nothing about the content inside the app. Tons of apps are wonderful for kids, while also stuffed with a bunch of things they absolutely should not see. I don't know, like the very one you're watching this video on right now. And Apple's answer was to wag a finger at developers and to point them at the age range APIs that have already existed and been frankly poorly adopted by almost everybody. And I get it. This is a genuinely hard problem to resolve. I mean, if Google can't do it, how will Apple? My only hope is that maybe someday on-device AI detection can chip away at this stuff a few years down the road, when my kid is old enough, which, hey, is a convenient segue to bucket 3, the main event. AI. I would like to just take a moment to thank my parents for helping me get to this moment in my life so I could show you my Cloth Pro Max, which is now back in stock after 3,000 happy customers blew through my initial inventory that I honestly never thought I would sell. It's big, it's beautiful, it has 4.9 stars because people love it and you will too. So use code WWDaddy to save 10% off at Copeland.supply. The link is below. Okay, the new Apple Intelligence. I want to do this one right because everyone and their uninformed uncle is already posting hot takes about it, and most of them are going to focus on the wrong thing. The least interesting question is about Apple's model. Whether or not it's better than ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, it won't be because it is Gemini. Look, I use AI every single day, and the stuff that has become genuinely useful to me is not the make me an idea or invent a recipe or generate a picture. AI is just still not that good at ideating, and frankly, that's what humans are for. You should be doing that. The useful stuff is text dumps, searching files, transcripts, comparisons, second brain stuff, remembering project context, finding something that I describe abstractly inside of my stuff and having it find it, helping me do more. That is why Apple Intelligence is interesting to me, not because Siri can become another chatbot. I have chatbots. They're better than Siri, frankly, will probably ever be. The interesting part is that Apple might finally have the context layer that pretty much no other chatbot has. Now, I'm bringing back our discussion here to an analogy I used 2 years ago because, frankly, I think it's a pretty good analogy, and also I am bad at coming up with new ideas. Apple Intelligence is the pantry in the kitchen, and Siri is Remy the rat. It's the chef. Basically, Apple Intelligence stocks your ingredients, your messages, your files, your photos, your calendars, your contacts, your apps, your screen, all your stuff that Apple can index across the system, and then Siri is just supposed to take those ingredients and cook the meal that you actually asked for. But here's the thing that nobody said during the keynote that I will say, because I think they were trying to hide it. A large language model is not a magic database of your life. It just does not know your stuff. It only knows how to parse what it's been given. For Siri to be useful, it has to figure out what you meant, search your indexed personal content, find the right messages and files and photos and calendar events to rank them correctly, and then understand which ones actually matter. And then, only then, can the model reason over all of the data that it has and either do the thing or suggest what ought to be done next. Every single one of those steps, by the way, has, a baton that can be dropped. They can screw up, and I know that because I use AI almost every day, but they have gotten pretty good. The difficult part, the incredibly difficult part, is the indexing problem. Where do you get the data? The reason ChatGPT and Claude on my Mac, which by the way are probably flat out more capable than anything Apple showed today, still feel like they're bolted onto the side of my computer from the outside is that they kind of are. They've got no standing database of my stuff. So every single time they have to re-ingest everything into the context window before they can help. And it's just routinely faster to do the stuff myself because I have to find the files and then feed it to them and then say, okay, do the thing, and then they output it. If Apple's rebuilt Spotlight can quietly, constantly index my files, my messages, my emails, my photos, my transcripts, and my app data with rich and accurate tagging, Then Siri finally has a fully stocked pantry to reach into. I don't have to go to the store. And if that index is good, Siri can finally be good. But if Siri finds an old address instead of the new one, the answer is wrong. If it pulls July's flight confirmation instead of August, the answer is wrong. If it grabs the wrong photo, the wrong Jeff, the wrong email thread, the wrong calendar event, the answer is wrong, no matter how confident and conversational the model might sound when it says it. And I said this 2 years ago too. There is a logarithmic amount of frustration waiting the moment that one of these tools confidently fails at something you would assume that it would nail. Too many of those. And the end user just stops trusting the product. Look at Siri today. Nobody wants to even try to ask it something because we're almost certain that it just won't work, even though sometimes it might. So that is half of Apple intelligence that I'm rooting for, the finding aspect. But the thrilling part is when Siri stops the finding and actually starts the doing. The password demo was the best thing from the keynote. Passwords, the app, automatically knows which logins are weak and reused. It flags them and has for years, but nobody wants to go out and change their passwords. So now you can send out an agent to quietly drive Safari itself to log in and rotate those passwords in the background. AI is going to the website, navigating the web page, going to the change password page, and then it just does it. And that is so cool. Right behind it, in my opinion, in terms of coolness, is the natural language shortcuts builder. You describe the automation in plain English that you want, and it assembles the steps, which I love because it's basically coding. It's one of the few things that these models are flatly great at. But notice how careful they were with these examples. Do you remember how Apple staged the concert demo? How do I get the tickets? He asked with a convenient answer that required no extra steps. The more honest version, for your average concert, is likely a Ticketmaster URL where you can buy the tickets. But Siri's not doing that. So it begs the question, well then why didn't I just Google Suki Waterhouse SF tickets? No AI required, same result. The same with the flight demo, where the phone app surfaces your confirmation code mid-call. Really cool if it works. But they admit they only look at who you're calling, not what you're saying. So how does it know which trip I'm talking about when I've got 3 booked? You see, the less you let it have, the dumber the results. I fed, and don't do this, my actual finances into ChatGPT through Plaid. Everything, my mortgage, my cash accounts, my retirement, everything. Terrifying. Do not do this. But I did get genuinely great advice echoed by my financial planner from ChatGPT because I gave it so much data. More context means more useful output, but it's less private, it's more expensive, more resource intensive, and it's a lot slower. Less context preserves privacy while being cheaper and faster, all things Apple wants, but it frequently yields the wrong output. And that's with better models than what Apple's using. So if they hack the mainframe somehow, I don't think so. So here's what I'm asking. I don't need Siri to be brave. I want it to be competent, I want it to be useful, I want it to be conservative, and very good at asking for permission. Handle the small stuff silently, but for anything that touches the real world, show me what you found and where you found it. Let me see where you got it, and let me hit confirm before you do anything. Okay. So that's the useful stuff. The generative half is where Apple just frankly lost me. Asking Gemini, which is not exactly my favorite writing partner, to invent iconic dishes from Brazil and Morocco and then barfing a wall of text into the group chat about a party, hard pass. That sucks. An image playground going fully photorealistic so you can fabricate convincing fake photos of your friends? Yeah, that would make Steve Jobs claw his way out of his grave just so he could die again. The good version of this product finds what's already yours. The bad version, the version that everybody keeps friggin' pushing with AI, manufactures more garbage that real people just have to sift through. The one place that I will admit, and Benjamin is not, but flat out optimistic is the Photos app because it is tangible and it is likely to actually work. Cleanup finally looks like it might actually beat a Samsung phone from 2022. Extend gives your subject just a little bit more breathing room, which I think is pretty nice. And spatial reframing is wild. It borrows Vision Pro's spatial models, which work really, really well, to shift the camera's angle after the shot, and then only generates the slivers that it has to fill. Yeah, sure, those invent pixels. They're kind of fake, but they're bolted onto a real thing, something that you did. It's fixing a photo that you already took, which in my opinion is a galaxy away from just conjuring slop out of the ether. Speed round on the rest. The Home app finally fuses a dozen camera pings into one notification that consistently updates. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I freaking disable Home notifications entirely because they suck. And you can now search clips across cameras. The Home app itself has been a dumpster fire for years, and so will that be updated? I don't know, but thank you for doing the bare minimum. Calendars now parse plain English events. Sorry, Fantastical, rest in peace. Safari's Notify Me can babysit a web page for a restock, and Visual Intelligence is, frankly, Google's circle to search in an Apple trench coat, because again, Apple is using Gemini. So honestly, that's kind of the theme of this morning, I guess. Feature for feature, almost none of this is new. Apple hasn't done anything where everybody's like, wow, this is amazing. Much of it isn't even really that impressive when you compare it to ChatGPT and Claude and others. Google and Android have had many of these flashier AI demos for quite some time. Gemini already does screen and camera awareness. Circle to search already exists. Gemini already has app extensions and multi-app actions, but the scoreboard is just, it's boring. What's left for Apple that nobody else really has is the depth of first-party access to every corner of your phone, your tablet, your watch, your computer, your entire life. And my bet, my hope, is if they can make that boring, private, integrated, kind of context good enough that normal humans will actually want to use it, it could be AI for the masses. A few parting shots. The good model, expressive voice, best dictation, the heavy features, it needs the most capable silicon. The iPhone Air, 17 Pro, and M4 and M5 Max and iPads with 12 gigs of RAM or more, which I think means the 1 terabyte iPad Pro and up. So everyone that bought an iPhone 15 Pro or 16 Pro that was sold on the promise of Apple Intelligence gets the new Siri and a lawsuit settlement, but they will miss out on some of the best stuff. Then again, a ton of this is coming later this year, yet again. Where have I heard that before? So maybe it will be the iPhone 19 that is out by the time all of this stuff finally ships. I'm joking. I think most of it will be available from now. The Siri stuff is already working and people are posting stuff on Twitter. If you're not living in the EU or China, which have been skipped over by regulators. So to my European friends, get wrecked. And buried at the end, these heavy features and image generation things that take a lot of compute in the cloud, they will have daily caps. With more of it, like your HomeKit camera plus AI crap locked behind iCloud Plus. HomeKit Secure Video was already locked behind iCloud Plus. It's disappointing, but it's expected. The AI is free right up until the part where it isn't. Luckily, most stuff seems to be done on device when possible. Oh, and they also said precisely nothing about Siri on the HomePod, HomePod OS at all, the HomePod at all. Same with tvOS. So yeah, by all suggesting evidence, both of those platforms should remain enormous piles of garbage when navigated by Siri, which is the two platforms that I most use Siri on. So there's that. So where does that leave me? Well, right where I was in 2024, and I'll repeat exactly what I said back then. This is either another black eye, they've got one, so two, if they can't deliver on years of just failed promises over and over and over where we can roast them, or it will be the single biggest jump for the average Joe in the realm of practical AI. No more image generation, like actually useful stuff. There is no in between. So which is it gonna be? Well, we'll find out. What did you think of WWDC? Please let me know in the comments down below, but most importantly, and as always, stay snazzy. Wow, I'm sweaty. I'm gonna rub myself down with a Cloth Pro Max from Copeland Supply at 10% off using coupon code DUBDUB. What was it? DUBDUB10. See you later, folks.